important. As you'd be aware, in the last 12 months, we transitioned from a scenario where grants were simply provided by the board to a process by which we called for applications from the not-for-profit sector, and the three finalists that gained the funding as a result of the approval of the board, obviously, are with us today. And of course that process was trialled last year, and as you would know through Giuliano, we're going to ensure that this year, not only is that process the same, but we're extending it so that the last 3 or 4 finalists are going to be doing a presentation to you all on a particular day, and you will decide who is going to get the funding. So it will be very inclusive for you all. Today we have 3 organisations, very diverse. MND, South Australia, from the medical area, you've got Ronald McDonald House, associated with medical, but very much supporting families who require their child or loved one to be in Adelaide for long periods of time, so it's their home away from home. And then, of course, Second Chances, which is very much about supporting families who are in a prison, but obviously looking after their family members. So I'm not going to tell you any more than that, because they know a lot more about this than I. So our first speaker today, Karen Percival, as we said, couldn't make it, she's been unwell, is Matthew, who commenced in 2021 as the Client Services Manager for Motor Neurone Disease Association after a long career in government. His early career was an occupational therapist, so you can understand how that fits so well with what he does. He has a Master's in Health Sciences Management from Flinders University and was previously used all of his system and clinical experience in leading the development of the government's equipment services in South Australia. Would you please welcome Matthew to say a few words?
Yep. Thanks very much, Elizabeth, for that warm welcome, and it's a real privilege to be here with everybody today, and thank you so much for the invitation to join. Look, I've just got a brief video that I think goes a long way to explaining the work that our association does in South Australia. So I'll see if I can get that operating.
Life is full of surprises, some good, in our recent experience, some not so good. Despite the not so good, staying positive with the love and support of family and friends allows you to continue to live life with a smile.
Yeah,
my name is Scott, and I'm my husband and biggest fan. The reason for the video is to increase awareness of the disease and its impacts and raise money for various causes. Anna is 49 years old, born on the 15th of May 1971. Anna and I married in 1997, some 23 years ago. Anna is the mother of our adorable children, Ernest, who's 19, Matthew, who's 18.
I'll do a voiceover, impromptu. This video is about a family of ours that was affected by motor neurone disease several years ago. The Penhall family, and Anna sadly passed away in December of 2020. Her husband, who's talking on the video, and unfortunately we can't hear, is Rob Penhall, and he's recently become the chair of Motor Neurone Disease SA. And in this video, he's just describing the impact that the disease had on his wife, which was fast-moving and came at a time when their children were approaching the end of schooling and really impacted the family heavily in a big way. Anna needed help with all her activities of daily living, so the things that all of us take for granted. And really Scott ended up taking an extended period off work to be Anna's main carer. And all the children basically lent a hand. She was covered by the National Disability Insurance Scheme, which is a very important feature because they are able to fund a lot of care and support hours.
And then obviously do all the testing and stuff.
Her children,
Late January.
her son's now at university, which is lovely to see, and but one of her daughters is still at school.
From there, yeah, it kind of just progressed.
And as you can see there, Anna was unable to move by the end of her disease. It affects respiration and speech, so lost all ability to speak and communicate, except for blinking. And in the early days, she had a board that she was able to write short things on when her hands were still functioning.
Obviously, around him, Danaher and stuff, and he's still able to walk and talk, and he's had it for 7 years.
Well, that's what most of the things out there are.
But one of the really critical things is that age is a divider in this country when you get diagnosed with motor neurone disease, because if you are under the age of 65 at diagnosis, then the resources of the National Disability Insurance Scheme are available to you. If you are 65, that is not the case. And I imagine a lot of you will have relatives who've been involved in the My Aged Care system. It's designed to assist with frail aged people to help them remain at home as long as they wish. It's not designed for people with a disability like this. Unfortunately, at the moment, the maximum support dollars for an older person is anywhere from a fifth to 10 times less than somebody under the NDIS is covered for. So it's a massive divide in the community, and we're advocating very strongly for much better support from the Australian government for people who are old enough to but have had a disability later in life. So if you've had a stroke under the age of 65, you've got an enormous amount of resources available to support you. Whereas a stroke after the age of 65, you're joining the queue. Just some data in terms of motor neurone disease. At any one time, there's around about 2,000 people in the country with the disease, so it's rare, thank goodness. But survival time is 27 months on average after diagnosis. So there's people who pass away every day from the disease. Every week we lose about 2 people in South Australia, and unfortunately there are others who join as well. So I really do apologise. There was no sound. It was working just fine on my speakers last night, so apologies for that. Having said all of that, motor neurone disease is incurable, but it's not untreatable, and that's really where we come in, because many symptoms can be managed, and that person can be supported to remain at home as long as they. Sorry, it's on a loop. As long as they would like to, or their family members are in a position to be able to support them. So one of the symptoms is respiratory muscle weakness. So your ability to breathe and actually produce a cough. We all take that for granted. We're able to cough. Well, if your respiratory muscles are affected, that can be impacted. So last year's grant allowed us to purchase for $10,000 a cough assist machine. It's a bloody expensive piece of kit, but it does some very important things for people and allows them to clear their lungs. I'm not going to go into great detail at our lunch, but leave it to your imagination. So we have added this to our pool of equipment. that is on loan to people with motor neurone disease. Anybody can access that pool of equipment if they've got that disease, and they will use that device for as long as they need it, and then it is returned to us, in which case it's obviously sanitised fully and then prepared ready for the next person to be able to use it. So it's a bit of like a library of equipment. And since purchasing the machine in late 2021, it's been out to at least 3 people when I last checked, which is absolutely fantastic, because that means that they're able to be able to rest more comfortably, having cleared their secretions. And we're really looking forward to further support from Rotary in the coming years. But once again, thank you so much for your generosity, all the members of Rotary Club Adelaide. It basically helps us continue to support our people, and we have a saying that until there's a cure, there's care. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. I hope that disappointing about the sound, but I'm sure you could see the images and the life that families dedicate to their loved ones when they have MND. Just a little bit of extra information for those who are new. The way this money is granted comes as a result of the Rotary Club of Adelaide Charitable Trust Fund, with the interest from the investments being raised, and then of course required by government law for a certain percentage to be distributed to the not-for-profit sector each year. And last year it was about 48,000, and the stock market very much determines to a large extent how much we have, but the more we raise and put into the trust fund, the more we have. And it will be a lovely day, I think, that if my vision of perhaps 100,000 going out each year might happen in the next 20 years, wow, what a great effort and contribution we can make to the community. Our second speaker is Julie Black, who has had a long history in the not-for-profit sector and health sector. She spent a number of years with the Arthritis Foundation and did an amazing job there, and has now been with Ronald McDonald House for 4. I don't know where that time's gone. Feels like 6. And has doing some wonderful work and progressing to a new Ronald McDonald House that will be built in due course to meet the needs of South Australians. Julie, would you please come up and talk about the work you've been able to do?
Thanks, Liz, and thank you everyone for having me today. I love coming to Rotary meetings. My father was Rotarian for 50 years, and I think I shared my bedroom with about 4 Rotary exchange students, and then we had boys too, which I was always keen to get. But sort of growing up in the country in Kadina, I met my husband when I was 15, and we've been married for 42 years now, so that kind of gives away my age. But being a country girl really makes me appreciate what our families come and stay with us. So, press down. So what I want to talk to you about today is really about our families. We are located about 200 metres from the Children's Hospital, and all the families that come to stay with us have to live over 100 kilometres away. They pay nothing to stay. At the moment, we've got one family that's been with us for 15 months. It's a young lad of 14 whose body doesn't produce collagen. So his bowel ruptures all the time, and he's, having surgeries and support and that, and he hasn't actually made it to the house. A third of our families are from children that are born premature, or mums that are high-risk pregnancies. A third of them are children that have blood cancer or forms of cancer and they're having treatment. And a third are the result of accidents or coming back for appointments. We had an 18-month-old that was riding a quad bike by himself and it rolled and he lost his foot. And so things that you living in the city might think never happen. For country kids, we get a lot of 12, 13-year-olds that are on their dirt bikes have accidents. One of the most important things about Ronald McDonald House, it has to be within walking distance to the hospital. If a mother has a child in paediatric intensive care or neonatal intensive care and they've get a call out at midnight, they've got to be there quickly. They can't be thinking about where do I get a taxi, where do I park my car. So that's one of the most important things. The other thing which is interesting to know is the variety. 24% of our families that stay with us are Aboriginal or First Nations. So we feed from Darwin, Alice Springs come down here. We also get a lot from interstate because we have one of the best craniofacial units in Australia, I should say. So we've spent a lot of time doing our reconciliation action plan to make these families feel comfortable. And, this is what makes our place special. What we say is, welcome home. This is your home. And, we get children that perhaps if they're going through a journey with cancer, they can be with us for up to 12 months. And a little one, Leo, I remember the first time I met his mother. She was too scared to come from the hospital after his chemo back to the house. She didn't know, she hadn't been into Darwin, let alone to be walking around Adelaide. And the hospital rang, said she's too scared to walk back because it was winter. And I went and got her. And she said, really angry with my mob. I said, oh, Kathleen, why are you angry? She said, they keep sending me photos of bush food. And she said, I'd kill for a goose or a bit of turtle at the moment. And so we, and Leo loves ham. So we got hams donated for Christmas, so we send all these hams over to them. So we make sure that we're not just accommodation, that we're there looking after them. So it is a communal environment, and some families aren't designed to live in a communal environment. If you come and stay at Ronnie Mac House, you never lose weight because we have this amazing pancake machine that you put it on in the morning and you press it and out comes the pancakes. We have our volunteers that come and cook beautiful cakes and scones and things like that. And then, of course, when it's not COVID, we have our dinner programs twice a week that corporates come in and cook for us. So what we try and do, we try and make the place as comfortable as possible but as friendly as possible. And I think it comes home when little Leo, they were going home for their 3 hours out of Catherine, and he said, oh, Mum, I don't want to go home. And she said, he said, well, what are you going to do? And he said, oh, I'll stay at Julie's house. And she said, oh, but Julie doesn't live here. And he said, that's all right, she'll take me to her own house. And then when he came back, because they get all their fresh linen every week, he said, Mum, can you give Julie a gold coin every week? And she said, why? And he said, for the towels. And she said, what do you mean? And he said, well, she gives us fresh towels every week. If we give her $1, we can stay here forever. And that's the sort of thing that we love to hear, that the children are happy, that the families are happy, because they're going through some terrible, terrible times. We've had twins born at 23 weeks. The mum and dad arrived and stayed with us for 5 weeks before Mitchell and Ruby were born. They were ventilated for nearly 3 months, and they stayed with us for about 9 months. They come through now and they just run through, hi Julie, and off they keep running. And that's what I love about working there. You know, we have our sad stories every now and then, but more often than not we have some really good stories. We try and make the bedrooms feel like home so that they feel comfortable. We have a lovely play deck where they can get up there and play. And it's not just the accommodation, it's things like we have pet therapy. We have Moe, the miniature horse that comes in once a fortnight. We have pet therapy where the dogs come in, because remember, these are country people and they want to feel like they've got something from home. And it's often when you say to the families, what do you miss? They say, our pets, our dogs. We have a Lego club, a craft club. We have groups, and this might be what you might like to, that come and do a working bee, and they will do things that we don't have time to do, like clean the windows, vacuum, and helping through that. We have emergency meals that have now become something that we've really, really relied on, which I'll talk about in a minute. But what a lot of people don't know is we have a learning program, and for any child that's missed a lot of school through illness, they can be funded for up to 40 one-on-one sessions with a tutor. It costs us around $5,000 for each student. It costs the parents nothing. And the difference is, if you, for example, year 12, you've had glandular fever, or you're off with a mental health issue, there's nowhere else that can help you catch up. So a lot of people don't realise that we put through 50 students a year through our learning program. So getting back to why I'm here. So when we sort of looked at the grants, we thought what we need is to have fresh, nutritious meals that when a mum and dad arrive back from the hospital at 11 o'clock at night, they haven't eaten all day, they might not have any money to get Uber Eats, that we've got meals for them. And what's impacted, and I said to Elizabeth, the timing of this grant could never have been better, because with COVID we had to shut down our dinner programs. And so we couldn't have that twice a week where they would get a nice, nutritious, home-cooked meal. And I tell you, when there's meat on, they all come. They love a barbecue and they love a roast. And so we looked around and we found these U-Foods that were quite nutritious. We've done a deal with them, and I think we get them for about $7.50 each. And it's something that when a new parent arrives, they're tired, the last thing they think about is their food. We can offer them the frozen meals. They've made a huge difference to our families, and I think since we've commenced, we've given out over 1,000 meals. So if you actually look, every single meal has the Rotary Club of Adelaide logo on it, so that you're being recognised. But it's also allowed to do things like, on Australia Day, we had a barbecue and we used some funds for that. On Monday, it was Valentine's Day, so the staff cooked some turkey rolls and we had a ham left and we got some salads, and they all enjoyed something, but it's all got to be takeaway at this stage. Sorry? Oh, that's all right. So, that's been something that's been really important, and the grant has really made a difference. We get 30 meals a week. We have up to 20 families staying with us at a time, and we operate at a 92% occupancy rate. So as soon as someone goes home, the next one comes in. So it keeps us very, very busy. So, on behalf of all the children and on behalf of all the families, I just want to thank the Rotary Club of Adelaide for really making a difference to filling the tummies of some people that don't have funds to buy things with, and you really have made a huge difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. So I'm sure you all know where Ronald McDonald House is. If you don't, just drive up Melbourne Street and look to the left and look to the right, and you'll see it more on the right than you will on the left, but it's definitely there. Third and finally, I met with Kim, who's down here with Greg and Jeffrey rather, and we probably nearly 12 months ago. And Second Chance is one of those wonderful hidden gems that is providing dedicated service to a very special group of people. And their whole purpose is restoring hope to people in prison, their children and families here in South Australia. It's too easy for us to think that they can slip through the cracks, and that's something that we should not be allowing to happen, because we need to look after everyone in our community. So it was lovely to meet with Kim, and Kim is the Go Active Mentoring Camp Director, And that's what you're about to hear today. And Helen is the Chief Executive who's going to come up to now and speak to you about these camps and all the wonderful work they do.
Hello, Rotary of Adelaide. How are you today? I want you to know that I was born after the inception of Rotary. But what I haven't told you is that you're looking at a Rotary Youth Exchange student. So that tells you I'm young, right? Except it was the year in the country that I invaded. It just so happened that due to communism in Indonesia, they had shut down all their Rotary clubs. And they only revived them in '66. Hello, Julie. And David, all these people. And I then happened to have studied 2 years of Indonesian in New South Wales. I put my hand up to the local Rotary Club of Borkham Hills. Like a sitting duck, there was one application and there was one opportunity, and I had the time of my life at the ripe old age of 17. So I hold Rotary very closely and dearly in my heart. So thank you for that opportunity. I started with this particular slide because since we have received the funds from you lovely people, we have turned 7. And you might think, well, that's not very old. Well, it just so happened that we did belong to a national outfit and we broke away. Very unlike South Australia to think independently and be a little different. But I want you to know we are Second Chances SA. And that's very important to us. And subsequently also, oh, you're here too. Sorry. And subsequently we just on the 22nd of December were awarded our accreditation. And that meant something really special to us. I worked my guts out last year, and you can imagine looking at me, I do not like policies and procedures. But we did it. So that's what the little gold star is. So we got our little gold star last year. So on your table, I left only 3 of these brochures, which will explain in a broad terms what we do, why we do it. And I did it deliberately so that only the people that are really interested can grab one of these. So there's no wastage. 3. The 3 people can get theirs. Since then also, some of you may remember Les Dennis. Put your hand up if you know. He's an OBE, as you may recall, and he received his OAM on Australia Day, and that's all part of it. But he, for years, has been our Pied Piper, and he has driven our camping program to the point that we've executed over 100 camps. And that is where you've put your money, and that is what we've been doing. This can show you some of the activities that we do on our camps. With the funding so far, we've conducted 4 very intimate kind of camps. We call them mentoring camps, and the ratio of leadership to the kids is 2 children or youth and 1 leader. This was on the Murray River up near Murray Bridge, and of course there's a lot of skills to learn with kayaking, and in most cases these kids don't learn kayaking from their parents. Obviously, they can come around a campfire, and it's important that they have these experiences. You know, there's a richness to our camps because every one of the campers has a parent in prison. Like somebody earlier said, choose your grandparents. We all know we haven't got the opportunity to choose our parents. I certainly didn't. You didn't. It's not their crime, not their fault. And that's where our compassion drives us. We do not choose our parents. So we get them on camp, but we also have professionals that come alongside them and teach them new skills, and archery is one of them. And it's a real exciting time for them, especially when they get the bullseye. I don't know if any of you have got the bullseye. You have, haven't you, David? I have that. I can see that look in your eye. And so up at Piccadilly at the Woodhouse campsite. They have some really fantastic facilities for romping around like a monkey and stretching your arms and legs. I'm not sure if anyone here has been to Woodside Camp. I suggest you get there and have a look at what's available for our youth. It's a wonderful facility. And of course they have these cubes. I wouldn't dare try one of them, but this is the kind of experience our kids have, and they are actually motivated, energised and thoroughly love the experience, and they can't wait to come back for more. We had two planned recently, and unfortunately due to COVID we had to defer them. We don't use the word cancel, we use the word defer, and they will take place before 30th of June. We try and choose a new facility, a new location, a new experience, and teach them as much as we can. And in the process, this is the real gutsy stuff. You guys are really strong on character. You've inducted a person because of his perceived good character. These kids don't get to be taught things like the basics that we have taken for granted, like respect, honesty, teamwork. RESPECT is probably the big thing that's missing in these youth. They're actually taught to hate the police. They're taught to disrespect their elders and teachers. But in the process of all these games and fun, what do? We teach them values that can build good character. Well, this too is up at Piccadilly. I don't think the crocodiles got them, but they had a jolly good time in the process. I'm not quite sure what the staff were doing here. They blindfolded themselves and hoped that they would catch a ball or two in the bucket. Don't know what you call that, but I think it was at Moana Beach. We choose a different location every time. Anyone been on one of these lately? No? No, I can't see one hand in the house. Oh well, there's something there for everyone to enjoy. So surfing is something we like to teach these kids. It's a great, healthy sport. It's outdoors. It's in one of our beautiful beaches. It gets them to build their confidence, and that's one of the things that they miss, because they don't have somebody on their back actually encouraging them, saying, you can do this. In more cases than one, they're told, you can't do that. Oh, and by the way, you'll end up in Yatala like your old man. That kind of talk, that you're a failure, you're not going to make it, you're going to be completely unsuccessful and not amount to much, believe it or not, that was the language of my home. My home spoke that language day in and day out up until I was 14. It's actually a curse. We have the power of the tongue to speak life into children, into our grandchildren. So anyone who's a grandparent here, tell them everything you need to tell them and build them up, and so they have self-worth and confidence and can believe they can be a success. So surfing is just another vehicle. It's a safe sport. It's a healthy sport. So what you have here is the summary of exactly where your investment went for 4 of these camps, 2 in December and 2 in November. There's one there in particular that's called a family camp, and it's the first time we've ever done it. And we worked out there's some grandparents who are taking up the load of raising their grandchildren because their grandchild's in prison and they can't have their kids. So we decided to have a grandparents' family weekend, and that all the children were attached to these 2 maternal grandparents who in fact were Aboriginal, and they couldn't get over the impact that they had. And for their children, they said, we haven't seen our children play without their mobile phone. We could sit back and watch them interact, sit back and let them have a run around and fun. So that was the family camp, which is the one that doesn't have a location, the one on the bottom left. So that's in picture form, the summaries. We are so grateful for the Rotary Club of Adelaide and the MOU that we signed together. I think it's one of the best MOUs we've ever signed. So I hope that next time I come, I'll show you more pictures, and we intend to do more camps between now and the 30th of June. Kim, will you stand up and wave to the people? Seriously, this girl's got the heart and the drive and the energy, and she makes it happen. We can't do things without team, just like Rotary can't do things without being in team. So thank you again for having us. Thank you for all that you've done, and we hope that these kids will just continue to be encouraged to make the right choices for their own life.
Lisa, do we have time for questions or not? We don't? Okay. I'm sure that you can have an opportunity to chat with these lovely people if you would like to at the close of meeting. On behalf of you, thank you all so much for being here and demonstrating to us the value of what we do and the reason and purpose for being part of Rotary. We will be giving you a certificate which we'll send you electronically, and it recognises your time here today and the monies we raise today and throughout our other meetings throughout the year goes towards our community projects, one of which of course is to end polio, which is going fantastically well and I think are nearly there. So thank you very much for coming today and showing us, demonstrating to us just the value of our work.